Good morning, everyone. Mike Thompson here, sitting in for Kevin Kietzman. This is Kevin Kietzman Uncanceled. It is my supreme pleasure today to have a good friend in studio with me. But before I get to the introduction, I need to tell a little bit of a story. Back when I just got out of the Navy, I got into television. I was working in Oklahoma City in 1979, 1980. Young meteorologist on the air down there, and I was making, $12,000 a year or something like that. Getting a little bit discouraged, thinking, gosh, am I ever going to get ahead? And we had a main anchor at that station. His name was Jerry Adams, number one show in town, news anchor. He worked with Gary England, who was my boss. Gary was the chief meteorologist. So one day I was back in the Weather Center, and Jerry came wandering back there to chat. And I said, Jerry, gosh, I'm making $12,000 a year. Do you think I'll ever make $30,000 a year? And Jerry said, oh, yeah, you'll make a lot more than that. Don't worry about it. So it just gave me the encouragement I needed to keep going on, And years later, I'm talking to our guest here, find out that he is Mark Alford's uncle. And Mark is with me here, Congressman Mark Alford. And I can't remember how that conversation came about. But you and I started comparing notes and
right.
realized that I worked with your uncle down there.
Well, first off, Mike, good to be with you, and thanks for Kevin Kietzman for getting such a great fill-in host such as yourself, the state senator, Mike Thompson. Yeah, my uncle was an anchorman. He was one of my heroes. I looked up to him. I wanted to follow in his footsteps. He was a class act. He was a Phil Witt or Larry Moore of Oklahoma City. He had worked at all three stations. I think he got fired from two. But anyway, I wanted to be like him. And when I came to Fox 4, you started talking about Oklahoma City. I said, well, did you know my uncle? And, yeah, his name came up. And he was a good guy. He never had any journalistic training. He was a DJ in Wichita Falls, Texas.
Really?
And cut a record called Wichita Willie. Wichita Willie, won't you come out tonight? Wichita Willie, won't you treat me right? Willie. Anyway, he got discovered by someone in Oklahoma City. I forgot the name of the family, but they own the newspaper and they own Britton, the Britton family.
The Brittons, yep.
There's a road name there by the studio, and they hired him to come do the news. That doesn't happen anymore. You've got to have some journalistic training, which I had a little.
Just and TV has changed. I was on the air for about 40 years, and from the time I got in the 70s until I got out, you saw it change. We had all the ownership, shrank back in the day.
Yeah.
In fact, in Oklahoma City, I worked for the Griffin family there. And then went to Charlotte, and I ended up going to work for a company owned by, that TV station owned by Westinghouse, and then came to Kansas City and worked for 5 and 4. So a lot of different owners, but, over the years, those dropped off as you had all the mergers and acquisitions, and TV changed.
At the time you were at WDAF, was that started out as an NBC affiliate when you were here, right?
Yeah, I was just about a year before we went to Fox. And, that was right. I'm trying to remember what year that was.
How many owners did you go
through?
Five owners.
Five. And after the fifth owner, I said, that's it.
You know how I knew that we were up for sale each time?
How's that?
When I would go in the men's bathroom and there would be the blue dye in the urinal, I thought, they're cleaning up the shop. We got some potential owners coming to look for. And sure enough, Mike, there would be somebody scoping around to see. And poor John Harriet, the guy who really ran the place, he's still there.
Yeah, is he still there?
Maintenance engineer.
Oh, gosh, that's so funny.
We laugh about that. So, we're cleaning up. We got some potential buyers coming through.
Oh, gosh. Well, I got out at the end of 2018 and got into the Senate a little bit by accident, to be honest. The former senator and I go to the same church, and she asked if I would fill in for her final years in the Senate. I said, oh, my gosh. I'd never even considered politics. I mean, 10 years ago, if you told me I was going to be a senator, I'd say, you're nuts. And I'm sure you feel the same way. And I remember one day you called me up after you got off the air, and you were thinking about what sparked your interest in moving from TV into politics. Because I know you were considering it, and you and I talked for maybe 45 minutes at one day on the phone about the pitfalls, the ups and downs.
Yeah,
I
remember that road. I was out driving around Lake Winnebago, just driving around where we live now.
Right.
And I remember every time I drive down that stretch of the road, I remember talking to you because I just needed someone to talk about, because this was a big decision. Leslie and I gave up everything we'd worked for 35 years.
Right.
And once I'd never been to a political meeting. You couldn't as a journalist. You weren't supposed to. I had always been a lifelong conservative and Republican, as many of the people watching knew, watching my head about to explode when I would have to read some of these scripts, trying to tell the truth. I had considered running for mayor of Kansas City at one point, and this was many years ago, and I had contacted a local consulting company, Axiom. We talked about it. I decided I was not ready to get out of television, and we weren't really prepared to do that. So I kind of set that aside. I was at the news desk reading the news as in Mark Alford fashion, having fun in the morning, and I get a text from a guy who works for Axiom, and we had kept in touch, and he said, "Hey, call me when you get off the air. I want to talk to you about something." So I called him. He says, "Hey, what do you think about running for Congress?" And I thought,
"You're nuts."
Well, I said, "Well, number one, Manuel Cleaver's in that seat. He would be tough to beat, and it would cost probably $6 million, right. And I can't raise that kind of money." He said, "Well, it's not that district. It's Vicky Hartzer's district down in the 4th." And I said, "Well, I don't live in that district." He says, "Well, you don't have to. If constitutionally, a U.S. representative does not have to live in the district in which he or she represents just the state. But you do need to live in the district."
Yeah, you do.
And so he said, "Well, come talk to us." So we did. Leslie and I went down to their office on the plaza. We spent about 2 hours talking with their team. And you know me, everywhere I go in town, I stop and talk to people at the Quick Trip, Hy-Vee. It's all thanks to George Brett, and I'll tell you that story sometime later. But anyway, I thought the last thing Leslie would want me to do would be go into politics, because everywhere I go, I stop and talk to people and ask them, try to make them feel special. And we get in the car, and I said, "So what do you think?" I thought she was going to say no. She said, "You need to do this."
Yeah.
And I said, "What?" She said, "Yeah, I don't know anyone better who can help our country and represent that district more than you." So we prayed about it, got a lot of counsel.
Right.
Finally made the decision after, it was a final straw, and I've told Pete and others this, when Joe Biden left Afghanistan the way he did, and then and pulled everything out,
right,
and left 13 soldiers there to die on the wall of Abbey Gate, I was throwing things at the television. This is not right. This is not my country.
Right.
And that was the defining moment. I think a couple of weeks later, I went and turned in my resignation and never looked back.
And you're doing a great job. I mean,
well, thank you.
The thing to me is the preparation you get in television. You're probably more so than me. You covered all different topics. And when you're thrust into politics, you don't know what you don't know when you first get there. But you have to have a passion for fixing things, I think. For me, it's kind of the same thing. Leanne and I talked about this a lot. It took us about 6 months to make the decision for me because you're giving up a lot. You go from,
especially at our age, because you built a safety net. You are a fixture in Kansas City. You gave up your career, good pay,
right,
and walked on faith to serve the people of Kansas.
And the same deal. And I it's because you see there's so many big problems. I mean, look here, we passed $38 trillion in debt, and that's a federal issue, but Kansas has the same deal. And you have to say at some point, I have the opportunity, I have the ability to go do something and try to make a difference. And I think that was what motivated me to do that. And I had the support of my wife to do it. And you've got to, because it's as hard, or probably harder on them, I think, than it is on us. You and I, we're used to getting critiqued on the air. They're not. They're not used to the flings in the air. And to be honest, I think that I lost friends because all of a sudden they realize, on the air, they may not have known as much about me being a hardcore conservative Republican. And then I get off the air and I get in the Senate and they talk to some people and they find out I'm a Republican. All of a sudden they don't talk to you.
Isn't that sad, though?
It's
you
terrible.
don't see that on the other side.
No.
I have very good friends who are Democrats in Congress and here in town. I'm going to visit a pastor after I leave here in the urban core. We have a friendship. But the left won't do that.
No.
Not all of them, but it's really sad, and that was the most jarring. That still hurts because, Mike, you and I spent our entire career trying to get people to like us and watch us, right?
Exactly.
And now, automatically, half the people hate us because they don't believe in our political views. Republicans aren't like that. I want to hear. That's why I did a town hall tour this August, and 15 stops over 4 days, took 256 questions. I want to hear from people who don't agree with me, and I know you're the same way.
Yeah, let's talk about that when we come back. I've got Mark Alford, Congressman Mark Alford, good friend for many, many years.
Doesn't that feel weird saying
it is. I still have trouble hearing Senator Mike Thompson. And we will be back on Kevin Kietzman Uncanceled in just a second.
From Overland Park to Parkville, it's Kevin Kietzman, Uncanceled, on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
And welcome back. Mike Thompson in for Kevin Kietzman today. My special guest, my good friend, Congressman Mark Alford.
Senator Mike Thompson.
Thank you.
Pass
Mark,
the cigars.
It is good. It's good to see. I mean, we haven't had a chance since you got into politics and you're running back and forth to Washington to have this kind of a chat.
I know.
mean, we text back and forth. I'll say, "Hey, Mark, what's going on up there?" And I can tell how busy you are because you'll get.
It's crazy.
It's all fine, right?
I don't know if you and I were talking before the show. I know you're busy when you're campaigning and on. You're certainly busy in Topeka. I have never actually. When I got this job, I thought, I've never really worked until now. I mean,
oh yeah.
I got up early at Fox 4. I go do the news, but it wasn't really work for me. I probably should have worked a lot harder. I'm sure the managers would have appreciated that. But I just like talking on the air and like having fun and informing people. I've had a landscape business. I've roofed houses in Houston, Texas. I owned a horse stable where I mucked 62 stalls some days. I had a custom clothing business. I sold real estate, and I did television. I have never actually worked until now.
It's harder work than you imagine. You think, you get into politics and, you sit around and you vote on stuff, right?
That's not it.
No.
It's 3 or 4 jobs in one.
It really is, and it's sort of like going back to college. Mm-hmm. You're reading so much, and you're reading so fast, and you're trying to do so much absorbing of topics that you never anticipated having to absorb.
How many committees are you on?
I sit on 7, actually.
And you're chair of 1,
I'm
right?
chair of 2 now. I'm chair of federal and state affairs, which I like because it's the interaction between the state and the feds. They also gave me the select committee on veterans affairs, which I just acquired last year, and I didn't have a chance to do as much with it as I wanted to because we just ran out of time. We just have a 90-day session, unlike you guys, and so we have to work fast. And I'm in committee meetings from 8:30 in the morning through – well, we go to the floor every day at 2:30 on the Senate floor at 2:30, and if there's some business, sometimes we'll be there till 4, 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the evening. Then I'll run home. It's only about 55 minutes to the house, but still, it's a 2-hour commute every day, and so it's just hair on fire every day, and especially running a committee. You've got to make sure you got the testimony lined up for the next day. You've got to read the bills, make sure you know what's in those bills.
And the staff is so important for that.
And I have very little staff. I mean, I've got a committee assistant who helps me run the committee, make sure that we've got all the testimony lined up, and then I've got an office assistant who helps keep the flow in and out of the office. That's it. But you have to manage a staff on top of all of that. We were talking about Democrats and Republicans and how we approach things. I know in the Senate, the Democrats tend to vote in a block. And I think the Democrat Party has been co-opted by the very far left. But you get the individual Democrats, and I have some that I get along with very well. We don't vote the same, but we can have good conversations. I treat them as people, but it's so weird. I think people who are outside of politics see this great division, and there is because we are so far apart on so many topics. But it's not that we aren't having conversations with individuals within the group. And do you feel the same way of what you experience there in Congress?
Yeah, up in Washington, I've gotten to be, as I said, some friends with some Democrats. I invited, when I was on the Ag Committee my first term 2 years ago for the state fair in Missouri, which happens every August, I invited our chairman, G.T. Thompson from Pennsylvania, to come down and do a listening session.
Right.
Huge turnout. The governor was there. I invited several other members of the Ag Committee to come with us to do this, to listen from farmers and producers mainly about what's going on in agriculture as we're trying to move the Farm Bill through. I invited 2 Democrats. One of them showed up. His name's Jonathan. Mm-hmm. He came and listened. He was from the south side of Chicago. He had never been to a state fair, had never been to the central part of Missouri, had been to Kansas City at one time,
Right.
but had never seen the beauty of the 4th Congressional District, Sedalia, the state fair. He milked a cow. I remember going to the FFA building, and he's going, Mark, what are all these kids doing running around these blue corduroy jackets? I said, Jonathan, that's the FFA. He says, we got to get a chapter in South Chicago. I said, okay, I'll help you. Long story short is that night he came home with me and stayed at our house in Lake Winnebago, and we sat out on the back porch and had a cigar and a little bourbon, talked about gun control and abortion and a lot of other issues that we differed on,
Right.
but just had a good discussion. And I think I made some good points to make him realize, especially when it comes to gun control, that it's not gun violence, that it's human violence. And when we
Right.
start using the term knife violence when someone gets stabbed, maybe that would make sense. But he said, I've never thought of it that way. That Jonathan from South Chicago is a son of Jesse Jackson.
Interesting.
Jesse has Parkinson now. I think he's 84, 85. And Jonathan, when he's home, he puts his dad to bed each night. And so he called his dad from my living room and wished him a good night. And I tell you that not to gain sympathy, but to let people know that we can still have conversations in America. We can still be friendly. We have to be wary and have to, I think, keep our guard up to some degree. I never compromise. I know you don't either.
Right.
Compromise is not a good word, but I will negotiate. I will negotiate when there's something to negotiate to get the best deal for our district, our state, and our country. What we're facing now with this government shutdown, there's nothing to negotiate. I have made that very clear. A continuing resolution, a simple extension of current government funding, and the Democrats have lied and obfuscated and gaslighted the American people into attaching all these things. All we needed was 7 weeks, Mike, to get our budget done.
Yeah. Let's pick that up on the other side of the break. We talk about this government shutdown. We may also open up the phone lines for calls, but also we've got a lot to talk about.
What's the number?
It is 913-408-7957, folks. So 913-408-7957. Mark Alford and I will stand for some calls and see what happens. Slings and arrows.
It ought to be
we
good.
don't know. It should be interesting. And this is Mike Thompson with Mark sitting in for Kevin Kietzman on Uncanceled.
Hey, it's Vince Gallane's Catch My News Show at 11 o'clock after Kevin Kietzman on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
Welcome back. This is Mike Thompson sitting in for Kevin Kietzman on Kevin Kietzman's Uncanceled. And with Mark Alford here, Congressman Mark Alford, we are going to take some calls. 913-408-7957. Jennifer is in Spring Hill. We'll get to her first. Jennifer, welcome to KCMO.
Good morning. It's Jennifer Williams. How are you?
Doing great, Jennifer. How are you?
I'm wonderful. It's wonderful for me to have a federal representative with a state representative. As you know, there's some federally mandated programs that get in the way of state legislators' ability to pass of Kansans, specifically being in the middle of the foreign trade zones, which is commerce related. And we don't have a grantee in the state of Kansas in charge of those programs. We have someone out of Missouri that's specifically involved in economic development and representing those investors, which ties right into the metropolitan planning organizations and how we have no control over those. And so just curious what state and federal can do to start working on those programs to possibly update the times now in order to get back to more state protection and less federal overreach.
I think you're talking about Mid-America Regional Council.
Yes,
probably.
they are. And I think I've talked with Jennifer about this on the Book of Faces and other platforms. We are looking into this. I am on the Appropriations Committee, and I believe one of our subcommittees oversees these and the funding for that. And we do have our staff looking into it. I think Jennifer and others feel like organizations like Mark have become way too powerful.
Right.
And have really have the influence and are making decisions that they don't have the authority to do. And that concerns me, especially when there's federal money that's trickling down to these entities. We've got to make sure that, number one, our taxpayer dollars are protected, and number two, that if they are being trickled down to state and local governments, as we do in the appropriations process, that it's done in the right way and that these monies are being used for the proper purposes.
In fact, I sat on legislative post audits, one of the committees I sat on, and then also government efficiency is the other. And we were talking about Mid-America Regional Council the other day, and that was a bi-state compact that went back to 1966. The original intent was to just deal with transportation money, period. Yeah. Now it's expanded out to climate change stuff. That has nothing to do with it. It has more to do with ideology than anything else. And so I think we've got to find a way to rein it in. We absolutely – and if reversing a bi-state compact is a tough thing. But we will need some federal help, I think, on that to say, listen, guys, let's get back to the original intent if we're going to keep it. If not, we could take that money, put it right into the Department of Transportation in Kansas, into the state general fund, and use that money wisely. And manage it ourselves. So I think that's going to be a big issue, and it's huge.
Well, it could be we could have some effect through the appropriations process, and even a future rescission if it came down to that, clawing some of this money back. But we are looking into this. I have our staff member who deals in business and government affairs, and so his name's Matt, and we are on this, Jennifer.
Very good. Hey, we've got Eric and Garnett. Eric, you're on with Mark and Mike. It's the Mark and Mike morning show.
Good morning, Mark and Mike. How are you?
We're doing good.
Great.
Hey, we got Senator and Dr. Roger Marshall came through and did a town hall here in Garnett, middle of the summer, early spring.
Right.
And he just went around the room and asked everybody if they had a topic. And at the time, I was doing kind of a part-time project up at the VA in Leavenworth for a communications upgrade project. It was supposed to be a 9-month project, turned into an 18-month project. During the project period, I was on site every day of the week, and it's frustrating to see how we treat our veterans. And I posed the question to Dr. Marshall, and I would pose it to you guys. Does it make sense, or would it help to pursue privatization of VA care or the veterans' care?
Well, we are doing that to some degree. I sit on the Appropriations Subcommittee for Military Construction and Veterans Affairs, so I'm very much in tune with how we're spending our money. That's one of only 3 subcommittees that we actually gave an increase to this year. We made cuts, overall a 7.3% cuts for the remaining 9 subcommittees for our overall budget. But I think you see somewhat of privatization, if you want to call it. That's a dirty word to Democrats, by the way. Yeah. They don't want anyone thinking that anyone can do it better than the government. Well, I'm here to tell you that sometimes it can be done better. We have a secretary now, Collins, from Georgia, who is committed to turning the Veterans Administration around, to start making it the gold standard of health care. And people laugh when I say that, but that's his intent, and he's very much in tune with that. There's something called the Community Cares Program, and if you can't get the care you need at a VA hospital or clinic, then you can get that care where they can give you that care, and then you're reimbursed, or the situation's paid for. Let's put it that way. We plussed up that Community Cares Program. The Democrats cried bloody murder in our committee subcommittee meeting over this. But we're like, hey, we've got to improve our care no matter where that care comes from until we can get the VA to where it needs to be. I'll give you one quick example of what's going on now with the Schumer shutdown, which we're now in day 24, America held hostage. There's a guy in Raymore. His name's Timothy Brooks, and I went to talk to him. He had called our office. He's working with our caseworker. By the way, our caseworkers are still hard at work. Go to offer.house.gov if you need help with a federal issue. He called. He's been trying to get care. He's a veteran, and he has a military-related injury, PTSD, and a traumatic brain injury. And he's been trying to get in to see his doctors at his community care. And the problem is there's now a disconnect. They can't call in to the VA to get that approved because no one in Washington is answering the phone because of Chuck Schumer. This is a veteran who needs help mentally and psychologically and physically because of the service that he provided to our great nation. Right. But thanks to Chuck Schumer, he's not getting that.
Yeah. And in the Kansas side, I'm going to ramp up the Veterans Committee much faster. It just happened last year. They dropped it on me at the last second, and I only had a chance to have one meeting, and we passed a couple bills very quickly, but we've got more work to do in Kansas to try to help up. You know, the House has a specific Veterans Committee. The Senate never has. And so now, you know, I'm hoping we can get that ramped up and start looking at some of those things in Kansas and what we can do to help the vets. We absolutely, you know, these poor guys, if anybody deserves the help, it's the veterans.
Mike, we still have 20 veterans a day in America taking their own lives. Right. We made sure that the hotline number was funded, that the people are there for the mental health issues. Unfortunately, I don't know where that money is going to come from in the future if this shutdown goes on much longer, thanks to Chuck Schumer.
And you don't see this could go a while.
You know, initially I thought it was going to be over after this No Kings nonsense that went on.
Right.
The Hate Trump rally. I don't think it is. Chuck Schumer and the Democrats have dug themselves a hole so much they don't know how to get out of it. It's like a golf player, a golfer out on the golf course who's gotten into a deep bunker and keeps hitting the sand wedge, and the ball keeps rolling back down to the middle of the sand.
I think and I believe he's scared of the far left component of the Democrat Party.
He's definitely afraid of it. Yeah. That's the whole impetus. He voted for this clean extension. It's called a clean continuing resolution, right. But it's a simple extension of current government funding. We need 7 more weeks to do our job to get the rest of these bills off the floor and over to the Senate. We're trying to get back to regular order. The Democrats are standing out of the way, and he's afraid of getting primaried by AOC. The Marxist leftist progressive wing of their party has taken over. Look, they're about to elect a Marxist communist socialist to the mayor of New York City.
Zoran Mondami.
Who would have thought?
Oh, I know. And this guy doesn't have a clue about what's going on. And the trouble is, taxpayers here in Kansas and Missouri will be bailing New York City out. Unfortunately, you get that sort of thing, that's what you end up with.
But the Democrats want pain. you see it. That's why they want this to keep going on. Just this week, Catherine Clark, the number 2 in charge in the House, she's right under Hakeem Jeffrey. She's kind of the Democrat version of Steve Scalise, said this in a quote in a live interview or taped interview with Chad Pergram of Fox News, who's actually a very good reporter, by the way. Yeah. This is the quote. I mean, shutdowns are terrible, and of course there will be, families that are going to suffer. We take that responsibility very seriously, Catherine says, but it is one of the few leverage times we have. They want leverage to keep this going. They want pain, and it's coming. Coming in November, just next week, SNAP benefits are going to run out.
Right.
The president has funded the Women, Infants, and Children's program, thank God, through the tariff money, offset, and pay the military. But just yesterday, there's another pay cycle coming up for the military. The Democrats in the Senate voted against paying the military.
Yeah, that was horrible. That was absolutely horrible. Hey, all politics are local. They really are. We'll talk about that just a little bit here when we come back on Kevin Kietzman Uncanceled. Mark Alford, Mike Thompson here on 95.7.
From Smithville to Shawnee Mission, it's Kevin Kietzman, Uncanceled, on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
Been a privilege setting in for Kevin this last couple of days. Mike Thompson here, a former weather guy, now a senator in the state of Kansas, with Mark Alford, my friend and buddy from Fox 4, and also a congressman.
I
from
call
the state of
myself a
Missouri.
recovering journalist.
See, there you go.
Yeah.
Hey, before we get and kind of finish up, and we could probably go another 2 hours. I wish we had an hour or so to finish up, but I do want to talk about all the local votes and how important that is. We've got an election coming up. What is it, November 4th, I believe it is. And this is one of those off-year elections where you have a lot of city council members up, board of county commissioner, people that you don't necessarily know. But I want to emphasize we need people to get out and vote. A lot of these elections are determined by a very, very narrow margin, less than 100 votes. And these are the folks who determine whether or not your property tax is going to go up or whether it ever goes down. And so when you're watching and looking at the campaign literature you're trying to determine which candidate to vote for, look for some of these things like some of the key phrases they put on their literature, like economic development or affordable housing or inclusive or welcome. That's all code word for we're going to spend your money like crazy. And you're never
right.
going to get a property tax break. So I just want to urge you folks to look at those candidates, make sure you get out and vote. It's extremely important. I know I've got a good friend, my campaign manager, Mike Perner. He also helps a lot of local candidates as well. And these people work very, very hard, and there's some good candidates out there. And
how do you find out what people stand for?
That's the hard part. That is the hard part. You know, you and I were lucky. People saw us on TV. We had a little bit of advantage because we had the name ID. But a lot of these people, the local money it takes to get a name ID out, just the name ID alone sometimes gets somebody elected because they've been there a long time. And then you might have some new people who have great ideas. There are these local groups like Northwest Johnson County Republicans, Northeast Johnson County Conservatives. If you go to some of those meetings, search those out, you get to see those candidates and talk to them. And I've been impressed when I've been to some of these meetings, like over in Prairie Village. You know, Prairie Village is kind of the heart of but there are some local candidates there who are running who have some great ideas and want to turn things around. And so it's very difficult.
I think someone who's not been involved in politics, who doesn't necessarily join Republican clubs, have a hesitancy to go to those meetings, but they're very welcoming, and they want people to come there to listen to the candidates. So I encourage you to go.
And to have the conversation as well, which, you know, kind of gets to the point that you went right to the top of the food chain or very close to it. Here you are, a few years ago, you were sitting on the air doing news.
I know.
And now you're rubbing his shoulders with the leader of the free world, you know.
Well, it's incredible, the experiences I've had going to the White House numerous times. Last year, I was in the Middle East meeting with King Abdullah. I had lunch with King Abdullah of Jordan. I spent an afternoon with the president of Egypt, Al-Sisi. Met with Benjamin Netanyahu in his office. Right. I mean, here's a smart aleck anchor from Fox 4 who ends up meeting with these world leaders. And when they had the peace deal, 2 weeks ago now, I watched the whole thing, and these are all the people that I've met. It was like, it was incredible. But I will tell you a short story. When I was campaigning, people would say, well, why don't you start at the bottom, like a city councilman or mayor or something, or a county commissioner? And I said, being a U.S. House of Representative is the bottom. They said, what are you talking about? We are out. I represent 772,047 individuals. We have 24 counties in our district. I travel to all 24 counties. I put about 100,000 miles on my Ford Expedition each year doing so, listening to people. It is the most grassroots position you can have. That's the way our founding fathers designed it. That's why we get elected every 2 years, because we have to be in the district listening.
And I talk about, I wish we could repeal the 17th Amendment, because the U.S. Senate race is so far, it's become a national race. It used
rather
to be
than state legislature driven,
which is what it was originally intended to be, and people have forgotten that. And so you guys really are doing the job, and it's a hard job. I know that, like you said, how many committees you sit on?
I'm on the Small Business Committee. I'm the chair of the Oversight Subcommittee on that, which is a lot of work. We're trying to reform with Kelly Loeffler, the administrator, the SBA. I've got several bills trying to double the loan amount for small business loans from $5 million to $10 million. We're trying to get some of our money back that's been stolen out of the taxpayers' funds during COVID. A lot we're working on there. And then on appropriations, I'm on 4 subcommittees that are very important. And so it's a lot of work. It's a lot of reading. It's a lot of learning. I want to ask you a question, though, because I know this governor's race is coming up in Kansas, and there's like 7
or 8 candidates.
7 or 8 candidates.
Right. I forget the number.
I never had any design, really, of going into politics. You didn't either, right?
No. I had no idea. I fell into it. I'm happy I did. I mean, I really enjoy this now that I'm in it.
I get a lot of people asking me, what do you want to do next? I don't know. I got on appropriations because I wanted to bring back projects to Missouri, our fair share, and turn the show me state into the grow me state with infrastructure, reasonable, rational things. But I don't really have any grand design of leadership or anything. Do you have any?
No. I want to be there for the people. I want to be there to try to give our next generation a chance. Control spending, things of that nature. That's what's important.
Well, you're doing a great job.
Well, thanks,
Proud
Mark.
to be your friend.
Same here, sir. Hey, I appreciate you joining us today, Mark. We could probably go another hour or so, and we'll have a conversation off the air.
Is Leanne still making her famous Christmas cookies?
Doesn't cook as much as she used to.
Yeah, we'll tell her hi.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it very much.